Okay. Okay, everybody, this actually is going on better than I originally thought. We're able to get the other piston ring on without any problems whatsoever. And let's see if we can get this one on without any problems or hitches. Alright, as you can see, ladies and gents, we actually got the piston back on. Okay, gasket should be in place. Now, once we're done with that, hopefully the gasket has settled in without any problems, no air leaks or anything of that nature. The major part of this has actually been finished. Putting the piston onto the cylinder and putting the cylinder back in is the most important part of the job. Because believe me, this thing is a royal pain in the butt to put back on, and it's just something I really was dreading on doing. Now, one thing we do now is we take our bolts that go into our cylinder, get our Allen set, and we start tightening them down. Now, one thing you want to do is you want to tighten this thing down in a V pattern. Then we get the Allen key out. And I kind of can pick the ones out that I know are gonna you kind of get them a little bit snug before you do all the tightening. Now, with some of these bolts, they're very easy to access. Like if you look over here where the flywheel's at, where I took off that air jet that helps pump air into the carburetor. That's very easy to get to. So is this one. I mean, you can even just simply just stick it in right here. But luckily, you can just drop these bolts in and they'll just tighten up for you. Yeah, we just want to just finger tighten them a little bit so we can just get a good seal on it. As you can see, these bolts are going in nice and good, which makes me feel a lot better. Okay. Now, start the V pattern. Yeah, you start the V style pattern. As you can see right here, if I tip up the cylinder where this is where it is, I'll do this one, this one, this one, and this one. It's a V, actually it's more like a star pattern. You do this, it'll give the cylinder equal enough pressure to the crankcase, which will prevent you from getting any kind of air leaks. Because that's the last thing you want is air leaks. You get any kind of leak, it's going to mess up your saw, and you're not going to get really good compression, which then equals performance. And that's one thing we all want is performance on our chainsaw. That's what you do. You just do the V pattern, and should tighten up these bolts without any problems whatsoever. Because next after this comes the actual easy part itself. One thing I'll do is I'll make sure that the clutch is still in good is tight enough. Because since now I got the piston stop, that will actually prevent the piston from going up and down. Make sure that's all nice and tight, and then we'll do it. There. Okay, sometimes you have to go a little bit bigger one. It makes me realize that probably sooner or later I'll have to start considering on putting new piston, getting new. Yeah, because as you can see, this one's starting to get a little worn. so the threads on it are not that great. Okay, now we know everything's all good, snug and tight on it. And once we got that all together, then we're going to go reinstall. It does fit very well. Okay, everybody. As you can see, pretty much almost an hour has lapsed. And don't worry, I'm going to have to edit this thing before I actually put it on the web page. Next step is we're going to install the bars, the studs for the exhaust gasket, because since they're kind of open, they can easily pop out. One thing you really want to do is just reinstall the heat shield. As it goes this way, yeah. Doing this keeps it from being stuck. I mean, keeps the bolts in place a little bit. Then we shove the new thing on. I want to take a look at these little washers here and see how big they are. Just work with it. Or will this thing just be a pain in the ass? I don't want to tighten on me. Yeah. Fortunately, I don't have any nuts that are large enough. So I'm using these little split washers. And I think these will probably work fine. Take our 13mm, take our 10mm socket, and just start cranking these things down. Those bolts are in there really good. As you can see, the saw actually is starting to look more like a chainsaw now. Next thing we want to do is then reinstall the carburetor. Which first thing we do is, let's see if we can just try to get this bipod up a little bit more. As you can see right here, we want to, where my finger is pointing at, we want to reinstall the gas line to the carb. We want to install the choke lever and also reinstall the throttle linkage, if I can find it. And it's actually right there. Once we get all that put back together, I will then put the I'll put the bar back. I'll put the the handlebar back on, and then we'll actually do our compression test. And once that's done, we'll actually give this thing a warm up and see what happens. Hopefully, this saw will actually run a lot. We'll have a little bit more compression with it than what it originally had. I mean, the original reading on this baby was 145 psi. No, actually 140. I'm sorry to correct you on that. It was originally 140 psi, and well, I wanted to get more bang on my buck with this saw, but you know, of course, every mechanic tells you. Every mechanic tells you that, you know, 140 psi is really good, and that is true, because perfect operating is between 120 and 150 psi. If you're in that range, good. If you're higher, that's real good. If you're below 120, you're not going to get really good performance. Plus, also is your chainsaw will be hard to start, and it just might not even just work at all, which means that you'll probably be running into several problems: busted bearings, seals, scored piston and cylinder, a lot of stuff, and a lot of expensive repairs. Now with my itty bitty pair of pliers, I'm going to reinstall the gas line. Now, as you remember, we disassembled the gas line. And one thing you also want to do is, when you're checking the choke out, is you see that little paddle. If the thing moves, then you know that the throttle is on correct. I mean that the choke lever is on correct. Now for the throttle linkage, yeah, you always want to make sure you always check your throttle linkage up a little bit so it works. Okay. Now we're going to dig and find the carb bag. As you see with the carb bag, we have the blue insert for adjusting the idling, and also the cover to cover up where the screws are for adjusting the carburetor, and also the two long bolts that actually go on this high rise that connects the air filter. And just put the bolts in there. Find your correct size Allen key, which I did not. Which it's here someplace. Because with this, we're actually getting really, really close to having this thing be finished. Just want to make sure these things are on pretty good. You don't need to really over tighten this. Also, like I say, it's also good to check the throttle. Always good to check your linkages, and also make sure that the choke and throttle are working a-okay. Now, one thing also we want to install on here. Fortunately, mine did not come with a screw, which I'm considering on just buying a new one. There's this stupid little air jet that's becoming a royal pain in the ass to get in. There he goes. Air jet's back in. Usually there's a Phillips head screwdriver, Phillips bit. There's usually a Phillips head screwdriver bit that goes through here, which is not that big of a deal. Okay. Pretty much the only thing we have left in the carburetor kit is, in the carburetor bag, is your little blue insert. Goes in like so. And all you want to do is match that up. That goes back in like so, which means we're getting closer and closer and closer to actually getting this thing started, which I'm really hoping for. Next thing I really want to do is get the recoil back on. Now you know how I did it before. Kind of put it face down like this.